What's up guys? I know it's been a few weeks since I've done a video. Last night I ran into the issue of getting a flat tire on my way home. Here's the tire that ended up going flat on me. I actually ended up wearing through the whole sidewall until a hole appeared right here. And that's how I ended up losing all the air in the tire. So all of this sidewall wear is definitely from not having the toe good enough. I only got about 600 miles out of these tires. If the toe is straight, I should definitely easily be able to get thousands of miles out of this tire because the toe is the #1 killer of the tires. As I've stated before in my other videos, there are not any shops in Hawaii that are willing to align this car because of the wheel being tucked up underneath the fender. The sensor is not able to go over the wheel, so I'm only able to do the best job that I can at home. So this just means that I need to redo the front alignment and do a better job this time. One of the other things I could do is take off the front fenders, drive to the alignment shop, and have the shop only align the front wheels because obviously I can't remove the rear quarters, but that might just be food for thought for a future time. Another option would be to get smaller diameter wheels with a taller profile tire, but that would require me to buy a new set of wheels and tires specifically for alignment purposes, and I don't think we're at that point with the car right now to want to do that. So basically the smaller diameter wheel will allow that sensor to be placed on the outside of the wheel and still be able to rotate freely without running into the fender. So I just want to take this opportunity to talk about the active tire info or ATI system that I have in place for this car. So most people know that by the time you realize that you have a flat tire, it's already going to be too late. Since you're running a stretch tire in this scenario, you run the risk of debeating, damaging the wheel, or the tire exploding since you're running a higher than normal tire pressure. The higher tire pressure is what allows the bead to stay seated when the tire is stretched like this. Everyone has their own personal preference on what pressure they like to run, but I like to run 60 to 65 psi, and I've never had any problems with that. So I have a sensor that goes on the valve stem of each wheel, and this actually displays the air pressure for each of these wheels to a display inside the car so I can monitor all the wheels in real time. And each of these sensors is labeled, so RR for rear right, and this lets you know exactly which wheel has what kind of pressure in it. And this is the screen that all those tire pressures are displayed on. This just plugs straight into the cigarette lighter, and then you have 4 pressure indicators on here that'll let you know the reference of the wheel to the car as well as how much pressure is in the tire. So this display here is programmable, so you can actually set what you want your high level and low level to be, and you can also program alarms. So this thing will actually alarm and beep if the tire pressure gets too low or too high, depending on what level you set it at. It'll also alarm if it detects that one of the tires has a fast leak. So what happened last night was this started alarming, telling me my right front tire was experiencing a rapid drop in pressure, and I saw this go from 60 to 45 to 35, and I knew right then and there that I had to pull over in order to save the wheel, because the last thing that I want to do is ride on the barrel of this wheel with the tire being completely flat. This specific ATI system I have is from Drift Dialects. There are a few different ones on the market if you search around on Amazon or something like that. I like the Drift Dialects one the best personally, but that's just me. It is a little bit on the more expensive side, so that's why some people might opt to go with the Amazon ones instead. So the reason this system is a lot better than TPMS, or why you might want to do this over TPMS, is because 9 out of 10 times people don't even put TPMS sensors on their aftermarket wheels. It's also more of a hassle because you have to mount the TPMS sensor on the inside of the tire usually, and this is just a sensor that you literally just thread on to the outside of your valve stem. So it's a lot simpler, a lot easier, a lot more convenient. And then TPMS won't always give you real-time pressure monitoring of the tire, because sometimes all the TPMS is going to do is tell you that, hey, your tire pressure is low, but it doesn't tell you exactly why your tire pressure is going low, how fast it's going low, or even what specific level it's at. So all of that is going to depend on the make and model of the car, but the bottom line is that this is definitely going to be way easier, and it's going to check all the boxes for what you would want for tire pressure monitoring. And then I just wanted to reiterate that these sensors will display the tire pressure in real time, as opposed to with some TPMS systems, there's going to be a delay in what the sensor is able to pick up for the tire pressure, and by the time it does, it might be too late. And once I pulled over, the tire went completely flat. So at that point in time, I had to make the decision on if I wanted to figure out a way to limp home or if I wanted to try and call a tow truck in order to get home. So obviously, you guys have already seen this wheel on the other side. So you know that I decided to find a way to limp home. But I just want to give you guys some insight on how I came to that decision and what I was able to figure out in order to find a way to limp home. So the specs of my front wheels are 18 by 10 and a half, negative 35. So that's obviously a bit on the aggressive side. A spare tire would not work. A stock tire would not work. I guess technically they would work, but I would need a ridiculous amount of spacers. In a perfect world, you would want a replacement or a spare that is as close as possible as you can get to this spec. With the offset and the camber of the car, this wheel actually sits probably half an inch from the coilover. So if I have any wheel that's not aggressive enough on the offset, then I basically wouldn't be able to get the wheel on because it would be sitting right on top of the coilover, and I wouldn't have been able to drive the car in order to get home. With matching wheel specs on the spare wheel, you want to consider not only the diameter, the width, and offset of the wheel, but you would also want to get the spare tire or whatever tire is on the wheel that you're using as a spare to be as close as possible to the other wheels that you have already. So I don't want to get too much into the technicalities of it, but basically, since this car is all-wheel drive, you want all the rolling diameters of the wheels to be as close as possible, because that's the reason you can't run staggered wheels or staggered tire widths on this all-wheel drive platform, is because of the drivetrain having to compensate for that difference in rolling diameter. So if you're interested in more details on that, you can probably Google it. There's different specifications for each brand of all-wheel drive car and what the drivetrain compensation is able to do and what rolling diameter differences you can consider running based on your application. And just so nobody gets confused, these front and rear wheels, they both have the same wheel width, the same tire size, but different offsets. You're able to stagger the offsets because the offset does not affect the final rolling diameter of the wheel and the tire. So luckily, my buddy had this spare wheel. This is a Odhan. The specs on this Odhan are 18 by 10.5 with an offset of plus 15. So if we do some quick math, the plus 15 is a 50 millimeter difference from my negative 35 that I normally run. In order to get this wheel to fit, we needed a 50 millimeter addition in negative offset. So if you do the math for that, 25 millimeters or 25.4 technically is 1 inch. So 50 millimeters would be 2 inches. So I know that I needed a 2 inch spacer to run with this wheel in order to get it as close as possible to the wheel that would normally be here. And lo and behold, I actually had another buddy that happened to have a 2 inch spacer. So that's what that is right there. And thanks to this wheel, as well as that 2 inch spacer, I was able to match the front wheel that used to be here as close as possible. And I was able to get this car home without having to call a tow truck. Shout outs to those guys. Thank you for helping me out. And I was able to get home thanks to you guys. And that's pretty much the gist of it. You guys have probably seen the jack point that I like to use on the front from my other videos. So with the quick release bumper, I'm able to take this front bumper off without the required use of any tools. So everything is done by hand. I was able to remove the front bumper, get a jack underneath the jack point, and replace the wheel, and eventually make my way home. So I guess the key takeaways from all this would be make sure you have a good alignment, make sure your toe is as close to zeroed as possible so that you don't suffer this excessive tread wear. I guess it's technically sidewall wear, but so you don't end up having your tire explode on you. And you can also think about investing in a ATI or active tire information system so that you can monitor your tire pressure in real time. And if you have a problem like this, then you know that you can pull over and prevent any excessive damage from occurring. Thank you for watching.